Mr. Orwell, I just have to say, it's a great honor. This is the first time you've given an interview since your death in 1950.
I'm glad to be here.
Before we start, I just want to make sure everyone understands that your responses to my questions about events in the 21st century are based on things you said before in an unpublished introduction to Animal Farm.
Yes, of course.
In your novel 1984, you depicted a society where the government prohibited freedom of speech. But that's not the problem we have today. The government isn't telling anybody what they can and can't say.
The chief danger to freedom of thought and speech at this moment is not the direct interference of the Ministry of Information or any official body. If publishers and editors exert themselves to keep certain topics out of print, it's not because they're frightened of prosecution, but because they're frightened of public opinion. Unpopular ideas can be silenced and inconvenient facts kept dark without the need for any official ban.
On the left today, some people argue that any challenge to the ideas or experience of a black or trans person is, by definition, racist or transphobic. And on the right, politicians are passing laws that would ban books and classroom discussions of ideas they disagree with.
At any given moment, there is an orthodoxy, a body of ideas which it's assumed that all right-thinking people will accept without question. Anyone who challenges the prevailing orthodoxy finds himself silenced with surprising effectiveness. A genuinely unfashionable opinion is almost never given a fair hearing, either in the popular press or in the highbrow periodicals.
But aren't you simply helping bigots peddle hate speech?
Freedom, as Rosa Luxemburg said, is freedom for the other fellow. The same principles contained in the famous words of Voltaire: I detest what you say, I will defend to the death your right to say it. It's only, or at any rate is chiefly, the literary and scientific intelligentsia, the very people who ought to be the guardians of liberty, who are beginning to despise it, in theory as well as in practice.
What about the people who believe that social media platforms should be forced to remove racist or fascist opinions? Do you see anything wrong with taking these actions?
These people don't see that if you encourage totalitarian methods, the time may come when they will be used against you instead of for you. Make a habit of imprisoning fascists without trial, and perhaps the process won't stop at fascists.
These days, there seem to be many words or ideas that people don't want to hear. On the left, it's phrases like black on black crime or save women's sports. On the right, it's critical race theory, and both sides want to ban books they don't like.
I am well acquainted with all the arguments against freedom of thought and speech. The arguments which claim that it cannot exist, and the arguments which claim that it ought not to. Intellectual freedom is a deep-rooted tradition, without which our characteristic Western culture could only doubtfully exist. From that tradition, many of our intellectuals are visibly turning away. They've accepted the principle that a book should be published or suppressed, praised or damned, not on its merits, but according to political expediency. If liberty means anything at all, it means the right to tell people what they do not want to hear.